What is going on, everyone? Last week we added our transformation stuff, our game object name, and so forth. So I did not show this in the last video, but as you can see, it'll work for every game object in the scene. Just because, well, every object has transformation information. So, for first thing is I want to get rid of this. Because, well, I've had it on there for a while. And it was right in front of me anyway, so. Alright. So, this episode, we are going to be doing the rendering stuff. Or renderer stuff, whatever you want to call it. We're not going to be working on the renderer itself yet, but we're going to be working on some of the stuff that it needs. Because how we're going to program this, or how I'm going to do it, is we're going to do it backwards. Because you have your renderer, which it's kind of like the main thing that calls everything to render. And then you have your mesh renderer, or sprite renderer, or whatever. That is the component that is attached to the game object that lets it know that that game object has something to render. And then behind that is the sprite, because it needs to know what sprite that it's going to render. And then you have a material, which is like what texture is going to be rendered, what shader, what color, so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it backwards. So we're going to go material, sprite, and then mesh renderer and renderer the next episode. So we'll do 2 of them this episode, 2 of them next episode, and then the final episode before I leave for my my December off, we will hit FBOs and begin rendering all of this stuff inside of the our game slash editor window, which is going to be just right here in the middle. Of course, we have not made our project panel yet, which we're not too worried about that, because as of right now, we just want to get some stuff rendering, and we can work on the project panel later because we can manually import it or hard code it just like we do right here. So that's not a big deal. So let's go ahead and get this started. First thing we need to do is create, not an interface. We need a new class, and we're going to call this material, because this is going to be all the information we need to know about a material. So the first thing that we're going to need is the name of the material. Let's do public string name, and then we need to know the texture. Do public texture, and then we're going to need a color. And lastly, we need the shader that this material is going to be using. So public shader. And we're going to be packing in a lot of information into this one episode, so if you need to stop the video at any point, feel free to, because we're going to be packing as much information as we can into as little amount of time as we can. So I'm going to be doing some copy and pasting as well, because we've already done some of this code. So where did I put it? Instead of the GUI, yes. So in here, open up the GUI skin. And what we're gonna do is copy this entire thing right here. Actually, we need to copy all the way up to here. Let's just copy that, because it's basically exactly the same. And all we're going to be doing is just changing some of it. So, actually, let's go ahead and create a basic constructor. So the basic constructor is just going to be things like if we want to create it on the fly or during runtime, whatever, that isn't going to be imported from a file. So we need string n for the name, texture t for the texture, color c for the color, shader s for the shader. And it's just going to be a basic name equals n, texture equals t, color equals c, shader equals s. So just your basic. So right here we need to change this to material. So it's going to be the name of the material file. And for now we're going to put this in materials. And right now we are using file, which later we will not be using files. It's good for accessing stuff outside of like your runnable jar, but we're going to be packing stuff inside of the jar. So we're going to have to change this as well. But for right now, just for testing purposes, we're going to get all into that after the beginning of the year. We're not going to be doing that right now. So since this is already set up, we'll just use the resources folder. We'll just make a new folder inside of there. And let's do dot material. So put materials here, dot material there. Alright, and the information that we need for the material is going to be in these lines. So you need this for the shader name. So let's cut this br.read line.split space 1. Let's cut that out. And let's cut that out. Say shader equals shader.find that. So it will just look just like that. And apparently we don't have a find class, so we will do that here in just a minute too. And we can actually just copy this and just, yeah, that'll be an easy way. And here, rect offset, we're going to say color equals new color. Alright, and that fixes that. We can just get rid of this and go change this name to materials. New array list of material and material. Go materials dot add this. In here, change that to material. So we're going to be returning a material. To materials. Materials. And materials. Alright. And besides changing this these comments I have, because it's talking about styles, I'll do that after recording. I won't do that during recording. But there we go. We have the entire material, wait, no, we don't. We need a bind method as well, just to make it easier so we don't have to go through here. We could just call material.bind. Okay. So let's go public void bind. And all bind is going to do is it's going to bind the shader. So shader.bind. And then texture.bind. And then the same thing for unbind. Call shader.unbind. And then texture.unbind. There. Looks like it takes care of that. Alright, so that is the entire materials class done now. So that was pretty harmless, right? Alright. So now we need to do this find class, or find function, the shader class, which does not look like we have any name for it. So let's see here. I need a should I make that private? Name of the shader. I'll make it public. No, let's keep it private. No. Oh god, I can't make up my mind. Okay, we'll just do public, and if I want to change it later, we can change it. So public string name. Right here, let's set name equals file name. And then go into the material, copy the getter, and paste it here. And we will also need the variables the cached I and the list. So we're going to return string wait, what am I doing? This would be shaders and oh, variable names. Let's go up here and we'll copy these two variable names or variables and paste it right there. Materials, change to shaders, shader, and shader. And I got an error over here somewhere. Shaders dot get I. Oh, because I'm returning a string. I want to return a shader. A shader. Is that correct? It looks like it. Alright. What am I having an issue with here? Oh, because I changed get to find. Oh, I need the static. So, public static. And change these variable name or these variables to static as well. Static. And change this getter to a static. And these variables to a static. I don't know why I didn't have them as static in the GUI skin. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm going to open this back up and just go ahead and change these as well while we're at it, while it's on my mind. That to static and static. Alright, so then that fixes that. Oh, this warning, I'm going to go skin.getStyle. No? Oh, GUI skin.getStyle. And if I would have known it was going to do this, then I wouldn't have done that. And all I'm doing is just changing these references to the static reference. And that gets rid of those warning messages. You don't really have to do that, but yeah. Alright, how much time? Oh, right at 20 minutes. So now we have our material. And how we have this set up is it's going to be a regular file, just like how our skins are. It's going to be exactly like how our skins are, except for it's going to be name, and then color, and then the shader. No. Let's cut this out. And put it you know what? Leave it like it is. So there's not going to be much information in here anyways. So we can actually just should just be able to get rid of all that. Right? Oh, no. The name is name equal, no, this dot name equals name. Texture equals read line. Then we can get rid of that. Get rid of all that. So that's the color. So this texture. Yeah, it's going to say the texture, the color, and then the shader. Yeah, and then the name is the name of the file. Okay, there we go. That's how it's going to look. Now, the next thing we need to do is create a new class. And this one is going to be a sprite. And sprite class, if you haven't already figured it out, is going to be almost identical to the material class. So we're going to say public string name. I'll leave that blank because we're going to fill it in anyways. Public material public rect offset and public rect padding. So what we're doing right here the offset and the padding is because the sprite is going to hold about the same information as what a glyph holds, because a sprite is basically just a glyph. It's exactly the same thing. The only difference is going to be the way that it's read in. And that's really the only difference. So, now that we have that, we can actually take all of this, once again, copy it, paste it, and do these name changes all over again. So Sprite, actually I don't need that. We'll worry about creating sprites on the fly later. Let's just get this done. So we'll put it under a sprites folder, and it's going to be under the prefix, no, suffix, whatever the hell you want to call it, sprite. Okay, now it's going to be material equals material dot get. And we're going to need two of these. I'll just give you a random one. Not a U. Sounds good. Actually, no, let's put a P. This would be offset and P for padding. So then this would be offset equals new rect. And padding equals new rect. Let's change this O to a P. And P. Alright, so we got the material coming in, got the offset, the padding, we don't have to worry about a shader. There. So then we're going to go, this will be sprites.add this, to change this from material to sprite, sprites, and sprite. This. Alright, come down here, return a sprite, sprites, and sprites, and sprites. Well, look at that. I think that is all we need for our sprite class. Get rid of these. See, so a lot of information. We did 2 full scripts, and most of it was just copy and paste. So I know we're coming up on 30 minutes, but we need to create these resources. So let's create another folder in the resources folder, and we're going to call it sprites. Right? Was it sprites or sprite? Sprites. And another folder. Call this folder materials. And see here, file now. Need to open up this which is under C users Angular Eclipse workspace logic resources. Alright, here's my sprites. So inside of the sprites why am I creating a folder? I don't need a folder. I need a text document. And I probably should have set these up before I started the video, but whatever. And the name of this, I'm going to be, I'll call it test sprite. And then the extension needs to be sprite. And under materials, create a new text document. I'm going to call this test material dot material. Sorry if that's incredibly fucking loud, but and that's all capital. Alright. Then come in here and refresh. And now it should be in there. So if we open this up, and by the way, I have my stuff set so that it opens up inside of Eclipse. If you haven't already done that, you might want to do that. It just makes it so much easier. Alright, so inside of Sprite, all we have to do is we need name of the material, offset, and padding. So name of the material, so I'll say material, and name of the material is going to be called, what do I call it? Test material. And what is it? Offset and padding. Say offset is, I'll just throw in some numbers for now. We can always change it later. Padding, just like that. Looks good. And that's it for test sprite.sprite. So that's what our sprite file is going to look like. And our material file is name of the texture, the color, and the shader we're going to be using. So name of the texture, texture. What was the name of the texture that I have in here? I have a couple in here. I'll use SMW tiles. And just put in whatever texture file you're going to use. And I already forgot. Color and shader. Say color. And let's put in just white. And shader it's going to be using. And for test purposes, I'll just use the default shader. Because both GUI and whatever, we can use the same shaders for now just to test it out and make sure that everything's working, in a couple episodes from now. And that is it. That is our material file. Super simple. Just like usual. But that finishes this episode. So now we have a material. We have a sprite. Next episode, we will create the component to be able to attach it to a game object. And then we will create the actual renderer to call the sprite renderer methods to actually render it on the screen. Now, next episode, we will get into rendering. Don't get me wrong. It will be rendered onto the screen. But it's going to be rendered according to the actual window for now. So if we put it at 0, 0, it's going to be rendered down here instead of, over here. And then the episode after that, when we get into FBOs, it will be rendered over here, how it's supposed to. It's because the FBO is kind of like a blanket or like a piece of paper. So you put a piece of paper right here. We're going to render it over here invisibly because this piece of paper is never rendered onto the screen. And then we're going to take this FBO or this piece of paper and then we're going to just plaster it right here in the middle. And that's how FBOs work. So don't be discouraged if next episode we get to rendering and it's rendering over here or whatever where it's not supposed to be. And that's just because, well, that's what happens. That's what it looks like if you're rendering without an FBO. I mean, we could put it over here if we wanted, but we need to get into FBOs anyway, so it'd be perfect for the last episode before I take the month off. So then we'd have some stuff drawing onto the screen. So I will see you on the next episode, and we can get some stuff going. All right, take it easy.